Believe it or not, Jagged Little Pill wasn't the debut of the era-defining artist known as Alanis Morissette. Leading up to that monster release, early 90s New Jack Swing was her jam. So when her third album finally landed, it was no miracle debut. Instead, it gave voice to an artist who finally found herself. Little did she know, she would also become the voice for an entire generation. I'm Jazz, and this is why Alanis Morissette's album Jagged Little Pill mattered.
The amount of time that I spent waiting in anticipation of what was going to happen is just insane. Like, since I was 9 years old, I wanted to have what I have now.
She's releasing like a documentary soon as well, just about how she's experienced like a lot of like sexual assault, and like when she was at the like young age of 15, which is crazy. And like listening back to the album after like hearing that information, it's like, it's an angry album. And I think that it holds like a lot of power.
I was roughly in my mid-teens when Jagged Little Pill came out, and prior to that my music taste was like not non-existent but very odd. Mariah Carey, which I actually do stand by now, and it was things like Bryan Adams and Billy Joel, like whatever. Alanis Morissette came onto the scene, and here was like this fierce, strong woman who was angry.
Jagged Little Pill marked a dramatic departure for Morissette in more ways than one. The change in sound was an obvious one. Gone were the synth stabs, samples and raps. In came gritty guitars, raw vocals and larger-than-life choruses. In other words, all the hallmarks of an artist who had lived a lifetime through grunge.
Like the music that was coming out at that point, like it was just like Limp Bizkit-esque artists, and she kind of came forth with like this huge voice, and like her voice has like this crazy passion to it.
And it was captivating, and the chords were pretty like hooky as well. It's interesting, you know, because Jagged Little Pill didn't invent angry women recording music. Like when you look back at the history of music, there were female punks and there was Susie and the Banshees. PJ Harvey preceded Alanis Morissette, but what Alanis Morissette did was bring kind of those conventions of the angry, intelligent woman to commercial FM radio.
The genius of Morissette was that she was able to play with the tropes of the genre. She took its elements and transformed it into undeniable pop hits. Another sea change for Morissette was her relocation from Toronto to Los Angeles. This was after her second album, Now Is the Time, failed to garner the sales of her first, Alanis, causing her to part ways with her label. Holed up in a new city with producer and co-writer Glenn Ballard, the two got to work on the tracks that would become Jagged Little Pill. Driven by philosophical lunchtime conversations before hitting the studio, the two punched through demo after demo in an atmosphere of complete creative freedom. Fans' first taste of the new record was lead single You Oughta Know, which landed in July 1995. This was an all-out rock assault, quickly gaining airplay and making headlines for its explicit imagery and scathing lyrics. In one fell swoop, Morissette was presented as a fully fledged songwriter, capable of threading together a compelling narrative infused with wry humour and biting bleakness. The child star skin had been shed, and Alanis Morissette, in the form of the artist she had always wanted to be, had arrived.
Is it true that no record labels were interested? They didn't want to sign you?
No, not an uncommon thing. When we got the rejections, I asked everyone to stop so that I could go back under my rock and keep writing. I was writing All I Really Want, which is the last song on the record that I wrote with Glenn. We got a phone call to go meet Maverick Gaiosiri, Madonna's label.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm in my sweats, I'm a mess, I can't go. And they said, who cares? Get in the car and go.
Go, this is an
So
opportunity.
I met him, and we played You Oughta Know and Perfect, and I had it in my pocket, and he was very excited.
Oh my gosh.
Hand in my pocket, an effortless gear change from the post-grunge of You Oughta Know, and a standalone indie folk masterpiece. With his crunchy drum loop and big bass, Morissette partially revived the hip-hop textures that brought her fame from her hometown, Canada. Even with the success of those two tracks, absolutely nothing could have prepared Morissette and the world for what was about to come. Ironic dropped in February 1996. Its universal lyrical content about how life can really take you for a spin, no matter how hard you try, really resonated. And what Morissette does so well in this is not only create a mind-warping tune about life's tropes, but she twists it in a way where it's actually really funny.
It's an incredible album. I think like sonically, it's crazy just by like the passion that you hear in it.
I was obsessed with that album. It sold millions of records worldwide. I think it's one of the very few albums that I can sing right from the start, right to the end, including the secret track, Your House.
She paved the way for like a lot of really like an interesting sound, like women that are fed up. And I think that's just like it's a cool thing. And it's something that will stand for a while because women will always be fed up.
Jagged Little Pill for me was a gateway to Tori Amos, to Björk, who led me to Kate Bush and PJ Harvey and Madonna and Joni Mitchell. So you see where I'm going, right? Jagged Little Pill was like opening a door to very good music.
Eventually yielding 6 singles, Jagged Little Pill has sold 33 million copies, won 5 Grammys, including Album of the Year, and it was even made into a Tony Award-winning musical in 2018. The sensation of rebirth, of learning to accept yourself despite carrying the world on your shoulders. These are the gifts that are bestowed to the listener when they press play on this record.
You know, that was the great thing about this album, that it meant that you got an education about so much more.
And that's why Alanis Morissette's album, Jagged Little Pill, matters, and still does today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
Pretty sweet there. Pretty good.